Runners Only with Dom Harvey.
Runners Only with Dom Harvey and Kelsey Waghorn. G'day, Kelsey.
Hello, how is it?
Good. Do I start singing the Metro Station song? It feels like every time. Do you hear that a lot? That must have haunted you through your teenage years.
Yeah, in high school I used to get it quite a lot, which was quite funny. But yeah, I had a friend who used to sing it to me all the time, and yeah, he actually died while I was in high school, and so now every time I hear that song, I think of him, which is kind of nice in a way, I suppose.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, what a down buzz to start with.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah. How are you? Thank you for coming on my podcast. Really appreciate it. It's great to meet you in person. I feel like I know you through following your Instagram channel for the last few years.
Yeah, it's taken quite a bit to get used to because people come up and ask me specific questions, and it's like I'm racking my brain like, who are you? Who are you? Oh my God, I've forgotten who you are. And then it's like, oh yeah, I follow you on Instagram. And you're like, I don't know you. So it is a bit weird. Like, yeah, people know a lot more about me than I remember I've told people.
Yeah, so tell us about Kelsey before December 9, 2019. Who was she? Just from what I can see on Instagram, just a girl that loves the outdoors, a farm girl, just a girl that appreciates nature and just getting the most out of life.
Yeah, mostly just that. I did marine science when I was at school and uni, and so ended up getting a job on a boat because that's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to be on the sea, and nailed that. Got a job on a boat, and worked on those boats for 5 years in one day, and it turned out to be one day too long.
Yeah. And how was your mental health prior to the December 9?
Good.
Most of you get through life pretty good.
Yeah, it was fairly uneventful. I did have a couple of things happen which, upset the apple cart a couple of times, but nothing quite as monumental as, what happened on December 9th.
Yeah, nothing could be as monumental as that. What were they? Do you want to get into them or not really?
So one of them, I was on a boat fire, or a boat that caught fire, and so that actually ended up burning to the waterline and sank. There were 60 people on board, including the crew, and I was the second to last off. And then it was April before the eruption. I had a passenger fall on another island, not White Island, and he actually ended up dying, unfortunately. So
A passenger had a fall?
Yeah, off Whale Island.
Right.
So, that's more inshore than White Island. So, that happened April before the eruption. But other than that, I hadn't really had anything too major or exciting happen.
Well, exciting's an interesting word.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a story. For the first time ever on my podcast, I even got a box of
Oh my God.
tissues. I thought that'd be necessary. Do you? Maybe for me more than you. How's your emotional state? Like, do you? I mean, I really appreciate you coming around here today and revisiting this, because I'm sure every time you do it, you have to brace yourself because it's not an easy thing to talk about. Or is it? Can you sort of just get through it on autopilot?
Yeah, it's a bit weird. Like, I probably shouldn't be able to talk about it. Because, usually, with PTSD, people can't really talk about their trauma, which is totally fair enough. I am lucky that I can talk about it with kind of little to no emotion. There's
Quite a bit of humour.
A lot of dark humour.
Yeah.
So, I do have to kind of keep that quite tame because obviously I'm not the only one involved in this, so I would hate to upset anyone or someone take offence to something I've said, so I do have to kind of censor my humour online, which is quite funny. It's because there's a lot of pretty dark humour in my sort of private chats with my friends and family, but try to tame it a little bit publicly, I suppose.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of other people I've had on the podcast. There's a guy, Joseph Sullivan, who's an Olympic gold medalist and America's Cup winner, now is a firefighter, and he said they get by with black humour. So on their way home from events, they'll make jokes about it. Another guy I had on the podcast is Billy Evans, who's the former police commissioner of Boston. He was there when the bombing went off.
Yeah.
And he said often after murder or tragedy, your cops will be seen like laughing at the scene, and members of the public will be like, what the fuck are they laughing about? It's inappropriate. But he said it's just a common coping mechanism.
Yeah, Yeah, so that definitely got me through, not the sort of early hours, because there wasn't a lot to laugh at in those first few hours of after the eruption happening, but yeah, definitely hospital. That got me through a lot of pretty shit times, and yeah, even still make a lot of jokes about just anything and everything. Nothing's sort of, I guess, off topic in my family especially. So yeah, it's yeah, quite funny having to sort of censor myself out in public, because yeah, I'd hate for someone to take offence to it or think that I'm being insensitive. But then it's kind of
it's
like
yours, your life, your story.
I'm involved in it as well, so it's not like I'm just like, yeah, being a dick. That's how I deal with it. It's just, you got to laugh through it. I've cried enough about it. Got to get some laughs out of it.
Where does that come from? Is that in your DNA, or is it just like
Yeah.
how you were raised with your family?
Yeah, definitely both. Yeah, and I like to have a laugh. So yeah, I think it's just, yeah, it's just been ingrained into me from day dot, I think.
So you're still you're still the same person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah, I was probably more extroverted beforehand, and I'm probably a bit more introverted now. Yeah, trauma would do that to you, I suppose. Changes you a little bit, but yeah, I guess still at heart, still the same person, still find the same things funny, still get the same joy out of all the things I used to love, still want to be on the sea, still want to be outside, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you got such a good attitude. Is there any words that you hate, like being called brave or courageous or inspirational?
Yeah, I don't hate them. I guess it's just a bit hard. Like a few of my friends who know the all the nitty gritties about what happened. There's a couple of them which always say use the word hero, and then I get people being like, you're so positive, and you're so inspirational and stuff, and it's like, I'm just trying to fucking survive, man. Like, I'm not trying to be any of these things. I'm just trying to stay alive, and it seems to be quite hard for me. So, or not, I suppose, because I keep kind of dodging bullets, which left, right, and centre. So, yeah, there's this running joke in my family now where it's like, if the apocalypse happens, it's going to be me and the cockroaches. So I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing.
How long was it after the explosion on White Island that your family could see you in the hospital and make jokes? Did they sort of wait for you to make the jokes before they started?
Well, for the first, I think it was 10 days, I was in ICU, and for those 10 days, they wouldn't tell my family whether they thought I was going to survive or not, because obviously you don't want to give false hope in those sorts of situations, because so much can go wrong with burns, and those early days and those real sort of acute moments, they didn't want to give my family false hope, because it was pretty grim. So for the first 10 days, it was definitely not a lot of joking. Even if there was, I couldn't tell you what was going on, because I was so high on drugs. I didn't know what was real and what wasn't. I was seeing a lot of stuff, and I remember a lot of stuff from ICU, but none of it's real. Wow. So that's very weird.
Just the morphine.
Yeah, hell a lot of ketamine, I think a lot of it was. So now even when I have surgeries, I'm like, don't give me ketamine.
Ketamine, but hospital grade, not festival grade.
Yeah. So it was like the good stuff, but
the really good stuff.
But I was seeing some wacky shit, and so now every time I have a surgery, I'm like, don't give me ketamine unless I need it, and they're just like, okay.
Wow. I want to get into that. We'll get into that in due course. Just because it seems astonishing to me that you can be, coherent and conscious all the way through the 90-minute boat ride and through the explosion, see your family, recognise your family, to then being in a situation for the next couple of weeks where it's touch and go. So I want to get into that. I'm sure you've learned a lot about burns over the last few years. But first of all, have you seen the Netflix movie? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep, I have.
Tell me about that watching experience. Did you watch it when it first came out, or did they send you an advance copy? Or?
They sent me an advance copy, because the whole way through, I've said to you, with all the court cases and stuff, I'm just trying to protect my own skin. So I do like to be able to see it ahead of time, so that if there's anything in there, I'm like, oh, that could be misconstrued or taken the wrong way, and I guess, be used against me or one of my colleagues. I do ask if I can see it, so that if there's any changes I would like made to clear things up, then I do that. So they did that for me, which was really cool. And so did I can't remember the name of it now. The one that I did in the first year for, I think it was TV3.
Right.
I can't remember now.
Yeah. Cause knowing that you were coming around today, I watched that a couple of nights ago. Just me sitting here. I've been to White Island before many, many years ago, but I've got no other connection to it really, and it was a hard watch for me. So I can't imagine what it's like watching it when you're involved with it, and this is your reality now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So who do you sit down and watch it with?
I'm really naughty and I do it on my own.
Oh, God.
I'm one of those people where I'm like, if I'm going to be triggered, if I'm going to cry, I'm going to do it in the privacy of my own room where no one can watch me. So
Shit, you're a tough cookie, aren't you? I sort of imagined.
Or I'm just a moron.
Yeah.
I'm just a stubborn moron, really.
No, I think you're just made from some tough stuff.
I don't know.
Right. Is it a hard watch for you?
I don't know. I don't really remember it now. I've only watched it once, and I kind of keep saying, because people ask, like, what do you think of the Netflix documentary? I'm like, oh, what I can remember, it was fine. But I guess the whole way through it, I was more critiquing what was fact and what wasn't the whole way through it. So it was just like, I guess I probably wasn't really paying attention to the whole thing. It was like, yep, that fact's correct, that's correct, yep, that's correct, like, just kind of fact checking the whole way through it. But there is one bit of footage in there which kind of took me by surprise, and it's from my group, from one of the girls in my group, and I think I might be wrong, so hopefully I'm not wrong, but she basically, as we went to run for cover, she put her phone in her pocket and accidentally hit record, and so the whole thing is recorded. And they put the first little bit of that in there, and I'd been like specifically told by the police, don't watch that piece of footage because it's pretty horrible. Like, you can't see anything, but you can hear everything, which obviously is not great. And I get triggered really bad with noises and audio, and so that came up, and I instantly knew what it was, and I was just like, oh my god, and I just was like, do I shut the computer, do I block my ears? And so I kind of didn't focus for probably the next couple of minutes, and thankfully they didn't put all the really nasty stuff in, which is really, really good.
I mean, you may not even know what the real nasty stuff is. What, like screaming?
Yeah. So the whole, I think there's about 20 minutes of footage of the whole thing, and you can just hear everything, and me yelling at my group. But yeah, so
yeah, you say yelling at your group, but you still had your work hat on.
Yeah, I was working,
which is fucking astonishing to me, because I suppose there's two types of people, and you don't know if you're going to be a fight or flight person until you're in that situation. But the fact that you were like worrying about your group and not thinking about self-preservation, shit. I mean, does that make you proud of yourself? It makes me proud of you.
I don't know. Like,
it's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah, I guess
you're in the same position as all these other people that you don't know from a bar of soap.
Yeah. I have a friend who she's adamant that she wants to tell the world like what I did, and she keeps like I said saying the H word, hero and stuff, and it's just like I don't know, it feels weird. It's just, I don't know, I did what I thought anyone else would do and just reacted to the situation as fast as I could, and I don't know, it is what it is for me, and it's not something that I brag about or talk about or
even think about.
Yeah, really. It just is what it is, and I kind of just I don't know, it just feels weird to talk about, and it just feels weird for people to be like, why don't you tell people this? And it's just like, why would I walk around being like, hey, look, this is what I did? And it's just like, it's just weird. And it's like, I don't know, it just feels like I'm tooting my own horn, and it's wrong. And and I mean, like, so many people did so much that day. Like, people did way more than what I did. And like, I mean, the pilots that went in there when everyone was saying it's too dangerous, and they were just like, and just went on the island. Like, I mean, they're my heroes. Like, they didn't bring me home, but shit, I'm so grateful for them. And like, obviously the skippers of my company who came back for us. They are the ones that I would, hold up a flag for them any day. Yeah.
Well, I think it's heroic.
Thank you.
So your Instagram, it's amazing, because you're quite a regular poster on Instagram.
Oh, am I?
I think so, yeah. And you scroll back, and it's I feel like it gives an interesting insight into the person you are, the person you were, and the person you are now. And there's not a lot of difference between the two. There's still that black humour there. You still seem to love the outdoors, love the fresh air, love animals.
Yeah.
But if you go back to October 2019, on your Instagram, there's a photo of White Island with steam coming out, and the caption, "Not bad, good soys."
Yeah.
Which it's great.
Yeah.
It's great. So, and then there's an appreciation post in late November 2019 for your dog. You say, "So much love for this little punk."
Yeah.
And then there's sort of radio silence on Instagram until late January 2020 from hospital. It's just a random photo of a landscape with a caption thanking people. Can I read some of this out?
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this why you brought the tissues?
Again, I think the tissues are for me rather than you. Thank you doesn't seem like a big enough word to my family and partner who have been by my side from day one. Through the low lows to the baby's first step highs. You've been through hell with me, and I'm lost for words into how to thank you all. I just keep pushing forward and hope that I will do that for you now. Can't wait to be home. Yeah, which, again, I think it says a lot about you. It's not a post saying, "Hey, guys, I'm here, I'm fine." It's you, again, thinking about other people.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, it's not something I ever put thought to, or it was just like I was in this situation, I was in hospital. When was that? January something.
Yeah, that was late January. Yeah, so like a month and a bit afterwards.
Yeah, so
maybe 6 weeks
end
afterwards.
of January, I would have been close to moving up to Waikato Hospital because that's my regional burns unit, from Hutt Hospital where I was originally taken. I was just grateful to everyone who'd looked after me. Like, my family were like holding the gas when whenever I had to have like my sheets changed or dressings changed in my bed, and it was just like I think that scarred them for life. Like, they were having to hold this gas, and I was on like 8 different types of pain medication just to change the sheets on my bed because I was just in so much pain.
Why is that? Because your skin sticks to the sheets and they have to sort of peel you off, or what do you mean?
So, I was lucky that half of my grafting was done while I was in ICU and in the coma. So my arms and hands were done early on. So the pain I was in ICU, I remember being really uncomfortable and not being able to move, but I don't really remember it. But I remember my legs being done because my legs were done at the end of December, and I was on the ward. They'd reduced my medication, which is hotly debated in my family as to whether that was the right thing to do. And then, so that was done on quite low medication. And so when I came out of surgery for the grafting, I was in absolute agony. Like, they'd just taken skin off my back, my butt and my thighs and just stuck it to my legs, and I think they only did my legs then, and just touched up a few things on my hands and stuff like that. And like, they staple it on. It's not like always glue or stitches, it's staples. And so like I could see staples sticking out the top of my like bandages, and I had them like around my shoulder where I could see them, and it was just like the weirdest thing. And I just felt like Frankenstein's monster. But like, so where they took all the skin from, so my entire backside was just a raw open wound. And so it was like, yeah, just being this massive graze just covering my entire back. And so every time like I would need to go to the bathroom or need my sheets changed, but I wasn't due to go to theatre, they would have to roll me in bed to basically roll the sheets up on one side, roll me over the lump of sheets, and then roll the rest up and pull it out, and then do it all again to unroll fresh sheets. So if you can imagine that on entirely open wounds. And then it's like when people were trying to grab you, and it's like they can't grab your arms because they've just been grafted 2 weeks ago. Can't grab your legs because they were grafted a week ago. Can't touch your entire backside because that's all open wound. It's like, so really they've got like not much to hold on to. So it was kind of just like, we're going to grab all your sore bits and you're just going to have to like it and lump it, basically. It was just like, we're going to get this done. And it was just like, all right. And it was horrific every time. And yeah, my family would hold the gas in my mouth while it would roll me. And I'd just be like staring at them, just like, make this stop. So just like pleading with them and just screaming at them. And so like nurses were leaving crying, and it was traumatic for everyone. So I was just so grateful that my family was there every single day, from like before opening, like before they would let visitors in, they were like banging on the door to come in, until like 11 o'clock at night, and they would basically just sleep on the floor of my room and just like in this hideous armchair, and they were just there all the time. So I was just so grateful for them. And then obviously the nurses had just gone above and beyond to save our lives and keep us as comfortable as possible. And they're just I owe them my life, so I was just really grateful.
Yeah. Oh, that's really nice. And then so we'll go right back. Like, what are your memories of that day? It was a shit day on the water, right? Wasn't it a real bumpy day?
No.
I know on the Netflix movie they talk about everyone being seasick.
Yeah, like,
have you just got a strong?
I don't remember the last time I was seasick.
Okay.
And I've been out in some pretty big seas, so I mean, I'd say it wasn't rough.
So it was a rough day for the tourists, but
it was wind chop.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it probably looked worse than what it was. But the boat we had, it was a brand new boat. It had only been in operation since April. That boat was notorious for making people sick. Like, it made crew sick. There was a couple of days I remember where I was the only crew member working and everyone else was vomiting. And it was like me versus 30 people vomiting, and it was like, this is the best.
Oh my God.
So, it wasn't a rough day. It was just, it was bumpy, but it just seemed to set people off.
And you were experienced, like you must have loved this job because you had it for like 5 years, you said. So there's no way, like there's no sort of inkling or anything that anything was wrong or untowards or out of the ordinary.
No, it was a level 2, but it had been a level 2 before, and nothing had ever happened. And
well, that scale thing seems really weird. So level 1, sweet as. Level 2 should be right. Level 3, no good. Is that pretty much it?
It's
that's today a 3-point scale.
It's 5-point scale.
Right,
I don't know if it's changed since, but because obviously I don't need to check that now. So level 1 was minor volcanic unrest. Level 2, I'm really wrecking my brain now. Level 2 was moderate to heightened unrest, which is where it was. And then level 3, 4, and 5 are different levels of eruption. And so level 3 is basically the material thrown out in the eruption stays sort of within the inner crater. Level 4 is sort of on White Island and kind of around the island itself. 5 is leaving the island, basically, so hitting the sea and going wherever it wants. I actually don't know what level that was, because technically I think most of it stayed in the inner crater, which indicates to me that there was a level 3, so like the smallest level of eruption.
Right, so the issue is like where you guys were at the time of the eruption,
which was in the crater.
Right. Yeah. So when did I mean, has your brain sort of blocked it out, or do you remember? No. So when did you realise, oh fuck, this is not good?
Immediately.
Yeah, really?
Yeah. So
there's no warning at all, nothing.
There was no noise. Like, there was no, like, you think, like, you watch movies of, I don't know, there's all sorts of volcanic movies, but I haven't seen any of them. But
and why would you now?
Yeah, I mean, I probably don't need to see that now. I mean, you think of a volcanic eruption, you think like sonic boom material, I suppose, and like it just like shakes you to the bones. Like, if we hadn't turned around, we probably never would have saw it coming. So we were just lucky that some of the passengers, and I think my backup guide, they happened to turn around and were just all going, wow, look at that, and taking photos. And then when I turned around, it was like, that's not normal. And so it was like, let's go.
You just, so they were in awe of it.
Well, I mean, you don't know it's not normal.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they've never been there before. They might have just thought, well, this is part of the show. Like,
yeah, we wouldn't be here if this was unsafe.
Exactly. So, I mean, yeah, it's hard. It's because, like, I understand I don't know. It's shit being a survivor and a crew member, because I obviously have all the knowledge of the crew member, but on the other hand, it's like I was also there when it erupted, so it's like I never want that to happen to anyone ever again. Because it's not good. Is
that like survivor guilt in a way, do you think?
Not survivor guilt. It's just a shitty position to be in, because I knew obviously what could happen. I talked about it every day for 5 years. I talked about eruptions, and like we made jokes like, what happens if it erupts? It's like, well, you just cross your fingers and hope like hell it's not pyroclastic flow. And what did we have? And it was like, as soon as I saw that, it was just like, well, that's our goose cooked, for lack of a better word. It was just like, well, that's just white flag moment. It was like, I know the odds of surviving that. So it was like, what do you do? What do you do when you're looking at the thing that's going to kill you statistically?
And then how quickly does everything happen? Do things just go dark immediately, or?
It was, so it's really weird. In my head, the whole, I guess, inner island experience, it took about 10 minutes in my head. It was less than 2. So it was very, very quick, which is good in a way, because obviously that's 2 minutes and then it was done. But, it was the slowest 2 minutes of my life.
Oh, I can only imagine. And
Yeah.
you're conscious the whole time.
Yeah, I was.
But you're in excruciating pain, or your body flips into some sort of adrenaline mode, or what?
Oh, there's only so much adrenaline can do. when it's most of your body, there's only so much adrenaline can do. So, like I remember it all, and I remember the feeling of my arms. I don't remember my legs, and so I remember when I woke up in hospital and was lucid, I was surprised that my legs were burnt and that they've been grafted, and then I was surprised again at the fact that they look like salami. But it was a weird moment. But
So what were you wearing? So you had your blue and white stripe,
just t-shirt,
work
shorts.
t-shirt,
Yeah.
t-shirt and shorts. Okay.
Yeah, and then I was wearing hiking boots. Yeah, so anything that was exposed. So my arms, so t-shirt line to fingertips, short line to boot line, and then my lower back got burnt because when I crouched down, my bag made my shirt right up and exposed my lower back. So it was basically any skin that was exposed got burnt because it was all chemical burns.
So when it's going on, like what are you doing? Are you like writhing around in pain? Are you sort of curled over in the fetal position?
Yeah, I'd crouched down. I didn't move up until the last couple of seconds because I kind of thought, well, there's no point moving because I knew what was going to happen, which didn't happen, which is good.
What did you think was going to happen?
That we weren't going to make it out the other side.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so I remember it all. But unless you've had burns, there's no point in trying to describe it because I'll never do it justice. Yeah.
Well, all I can think of is like having a steam burn on the inside of my hand from a pot, like a tiny little thing, like the size of a 50-cent coin.
Yeah.
And the pain's fucking excruciating.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do to escape it.
Yeah.
And you put Savlon on, put frozen peas on it, you run under a tap or whatever, nothing works.
Yeah.
And that's a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of the body.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's like that, even worse, but just everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I had 45% of my body burnt. So pretty much almost all my legs, pretty much all my arms, and then a little bit of my lower back, which wrapped around onto my stomach as well. And then I had some what's the word I'm thinking of? Cosmetic burns on my face and neck as well, which aren't as obvious and didn't get grafted. So I was lucky there that I managed to protect my face. Not that that's what I was trying to do, but I just got lucky. And because I just figured if I had any chance in getting off the island, I needed to be able to see and I needed to be able to breathe. So I had my sunglasses on and my gas mask on, which is actually burnt into my face. And I just held them to my face, and so managed to save the skin on my face that way. Not that was my aim, but lucky.
So the eruption passes in a couple of minutes. Then it becomes clear again. Is that what?
And then it was quiet, and then it was like, well, it's now or never. This is our opening, because it was kind of like, well, if it's going to go again, we just have to run that risk, because either that or stay here.
Yeah. So how many were in your group? So there were 22 that died altogether.
21. I think it was 21.
In your group?
Yeah, including me and my backup guide. Yeah.
And how many of you guys made it out?
Oh God, I'm not good at math.
Yeah,
I should work this out and remember this number, but because I keep getting asked it and I never know. But I think most of my group survived, other than a few. But
So just by sheer luck of where you were.
we were in a way better spot than
Yeah.
group 2, the other group, which only 3 survived from. So we were in a better place. We had more protection. And we saw it earlier, I think, as well.
So at that point, so the you're in agony. The explosions come and gone. You're like, okay, team, we've got to get the fuck out of here. Are you still in work mode at that point, or are you more sort of self-preservation mode at that point? Like, come on, guys, the boat's down there. I'll see you down there.
No, I stayed for, I think, I don't know how long. Like, my brain would say it was 5 minutes, but it was probably 5 seconds. Because I guess I was running so fast trying to get things, trying to figure out what was going on, that my just so much was crammed into such a small amount of time that time feels longer for me.
Yeah.
But I convinced my group that they had to get up, and then I just said follow me, and just basically walked back to the wharf, and one of our other boats came back for us, because the boat, which is lucky because the boat that we came out on got hit, so that was full of ash, so they couldn't turn that on, because if they turned it on it would have just sucked all the ash straight into the engine and seized it. So we got back on the other boat and went home on that.
That's remarkable. Like, how you, I mean, I'm sure it's only going to be a matter of time, but I mean, you deserve some sort of bravery award. Like, you really do. Like, you laugh at it and you'd never say it, but you do.
I mean, yeah,
like,
I don't know. I don't know. It just
I
feels
think
weird.
you're downplaying the way that you acted in the situation, and I'm telling you, not everyone would act the same way.
I mean, I guess you don't know what you're going to do in that situation until you're in the situation. Like, I've had people be like, I would never have reacted like that. So we have no idea, actually, because when you're in it, you kind of, you just act. You don't really think, you just act. And it's basically, right, what's my best option here? And you just do that, and you just hope for the best. Yeah.
So, what's the pain like at that point? When you how far's the walk back to where you had to get on the boat? Like a few hundred meters?
Yeah, maybe 150, 200 meters.
Right.
Wasn't that far. We were on our way back, so we were halfway back. Maybe just over halfway. So, and it was more or less flat. Yeah. And we went past the helicopter that made all the headlines, the only helicopter to ever be left on White Island. So
that's the one that was sort of shaken off the platform and was covered in ash.
So it was pushed off the platform. I don't know what tonnage that is. I don't think it's a very heavy one, but I mean, a ton is heavy. So it got shoved off. So that's a pretty good indication as to how heavy and how much power that pyroclastic flow had. So we walked past that and down to the wharf. And
so everyone gets back on the boat, and it's a boat ride that you've done, just about every day for the last 5 years. So it's a fucking long way.
Yeah.
What is it, like 90 minutes or something?
Usually sort of just over an hour. The boat that we were on the way back, Phoenix, usually could do it in about an hour, 15, hour 20, depending on how full it was. Obviously, it now has 2 boatloads worth of people on it, well, 1.5. So, it was pretty heavy. So, it was, running hot on the way home.
But the captain's going to be giving it death. But you also know it's a fucking long way back, and it's a long time.
Yeah, I think we did it in just over an hour. I think he managed to get us home in just over an hour, which is amazing, because you could hear the boat at its absolute peak. And I remember even thinking, it was like, come on Phoenix, keep it together. And apparently the captain was doing the same thing. So that was managed to make it back with no issues, thankfully.
So what?
No boat issues.
So what were you doing on that boat ride? You just lying there in your own fucking pain? Is that it, or were you?
I wasn't. I don't remember much going on around me, because I was kind of very tunnel vision at that point. So, yeah, I was sitting at the back, and maybe about halfway back, I just remember being so cold. I was so, so cold. I don't know if that was shock or the fact that I was wet and in the wind. It could have been both. And I said to the people that were putting water on me and helping me, I just said, I need to get inside. And they were like, you can't walk on the boat while it's going this fast. And I just said, fucking watch me. And I got up and I couldn't straighten my legs and I couldn't straighten my arms. So I was like this like little bunched over T-Rex, and the boat's hoofing it home. And so I managed to make it in. I think I bounced off a few things, and managed to make it inside and sit down. It was like, at least I'm out of the wind. But yeah, that was probably a hard few steps for me and the poor people that I was talking to.
So the pain you're in then, I feel like if it was me, I'd pass out or something from the pain or discomfort I was in. How do you remain conscious through that?
I just did.
Yeah.
I don't think I had much of a choice. I don't know, maybe it's because I was sitting up. But yeah, I was conscious the whole way home. Yeah, so I never passed out.
And you think at that point you're gonna do you feel like this is it? You're gonna die, or you never feel?
No, I didn't. I had that on the island when I saw the pyroclastic flow, but I think the fact that we'd made it out the other side, I was like, it's good. And so it never crossed my mind again. It never crossed my mind that because even though we were off the island, we still weren't out of the woods. So and even still, I didn't really find out about what had ended up happening, like the loss of life and what had happened when we left the island. I never found out about any of that until about 3 weeks later.
Yeah.
And then it was like, because I was like, well, I'm alive, so everyone's alive, because it was like, that makes sense. That made sense in my little brain.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and because it was like, well, if we weren't supposed to make it, but we did I made it, so everyone's made it. That's just, I don't know why that logic made sense to me, but it did. So that was pretty brutal, having that rug ripped out from underneath me. That not everyone had made it, which was horrible.
But so you're on the boat inspecting yourself. You realise it's not good.
Yeah,
Or did it look not so bad at the time and got worse over time?
It didn't look good.
Oh, yeah.
Even on the island, it didn't look good. And so that was seconds after the actual burning, and it was just kind of like, I heard one of the girls describe it as basically like the skin was just melting off us like candle wax, and I was like, yeah, that's actually a pretty apt description. And even the photos I've now got from hospital, I think I had been debrided, but you can see where all the skin was just like coming off, and it was just basically melting off. So that was pretty, it was weird. I remember my hands the most on the way home. I just remember staring at my hands, being like, what is happening? This is weird. And like never really occurring to me that it was burns. Never really occurring to me that it was going to require grafting. I probably never heard of grafting now that I actually think about it. None of that was going on in my head at that point. It was just like, this is weird. What is going on? It was just like tunnel vision of just
a state
like,
of shock,
extreme
Extreme
shock. They weren't kind of like coherent, normal thoughts. It was kind of just like, what is going on? Just a big kind of what the fuck.
Yeah, yet on the other hand, there were those coherent and normal thoughts, like you being putting on your work hat when the explosion was going on, and also when you got back to the mainland. This was in the Netflix documentary. Like you spot your mum.
Yeah, my mum, my nana, my sister, and apparently my uncle. And I think my dad was there as well. But I just remember seeing my mum, my nana, and my sister, and I was like, looking at my hands, looking at them, I was like, I don't want them to see me like this, because I was all melty and gross. So I was just like,
melty and gross.
I was just like, and I was in so much pain. So I was just like, I don't. No one wants their family to see them in that position. So
how far away were they? Like, what are you talking? Like 20 meters, 30 meters?
Yeah, 20 meters. Like, so they, if you ever come to Whakaari Wharf, I can show you. So they were on the grass by the playground, I think, and we pulled in to where the way station is. So as we were kind of coming in quite fast, I spotted them as we went past, and it was just like, ooh, we're going to get off this boat quick and get out of where they can see me. Unbeknownst to me, a couple of the cops actually knew me from school and uni and through my sister, who's friends with them. And they saw me go into this ambulance, and they went and told them, they're like, she's in an ambulance on the way to hospital, and they were like, what? So, yeah, that all moved pretty quickly, and then from there, it gets pretty hazy, because as soon as we got there, they were loading us up on basically anything they could to try and help with the pain.
Yeah, but so I can understand you not wanting to, and I get you weren't thinking coherently at the time, but I can understand you didn't want your parents or your family to see you in this state. But then, like, giving them a thumbs up or a wave would indicate that you're okay, which would have been...
Would have been nice for them, but it was just like, there was no doing thumbs up that day, not that afternoon, and it was not a thumbs up moment, so it was just like, it would have been like, no.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it was just like, nah, get out of here, just go. And so, yeah, I went off the front of the boat, which meant going up and over the rail and up onto the wharf. So my friend's dad had got on the boat, and I was like, get me off this boat, and I just like took off, and they were like, okay. And so they ended up just, shoving me off the boat. And so, and then got me in an ambulance.
But again, still thinking about the concerns of others.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is really, really, I mean, you need to give yourself more credit than what you do for these things.
I think I'm just stubborn.
Yeah. Well, good stubborn then. Good stubborn. So I know some stubborn people who are complete pains in the ass, but that's a very unselfish stubbornness. So this is the thing that I don't understand, and maybe you don't understand it, or maybe you do have more understanding now about burns and how they work. But I don't understand how this can happen to you. You're on a boat for an hour. You walk off the boat, you get taken to hospital, and then for the next couple of weeks, there's a chance you might live or die. Your life is in the balance. You think if you can survive the explosion and you're on the boat for that long, that you're going to be sweet as.
Yeah. And so that was kind of my thought as well. And as soon as the pyroclastic flow was gone, I was like, I'm alive, let's go. So it never really crossed my head again that it could still get worse. That never crossed my brain. It was just like, we're out of here, so that's it. We're good. But with burns, because I mean, skin's your biggest organ. Skin is well and truly your biggest organ, and so it is like, it thermoregulates. It like keeps your body the right temperature. It stops infection and bugs and all the shit getting into your body. It does all the things, like it sweats and so it does all that. And so when, for me, 45% of that is now damaged, and to the point where it's not just my skin that was damaged, it was even below that. So into the muscle, like fascia's gone, like there's bits of muscle being removed, like things like that. So it means that skin's gone, so infection can get in. All of a sudden, 45% of my body doesn't regulate temperature anymore. So I was always really, really hot. Like, I just remember in hospital, I was so hot all the time. Theatres were kept at about 39 degrees to keep you warm, because you can't regulate your temperature. So they wheeled me into theatre, and it was like, what the fuck?
Like a sauna.
Why am I in a sauna? This is like torture. Like,
I suppose because you're burning up. Like, if anyone that's had sunstroke will know.
Yeah.
Like, the last thing you want to do the next day is be in direct sunlight, because it hurts.
And like once the skin's obviously all the burnt skin has been removed, you're just literally like, it's just down to the muscle, like all your muscles exposed. So then obviously the risk of infection is massive. And then you have the donor site, which they then remove as well. So that's my entire back. So now you're thinking legs are open, arms are open, back is open. So that's like well and truly over 50% of my body is currently not functioning. My biggest organ is currently not functioning. And then I did get infections. I got a couple of infections. One of them I got in my donor site, and they had to graft my legs, because the cadaver skin I had on my legs only lasts about 14 days. So they had to take that off, which means they had to graft me or get more cadaver skin. And
cadaver skin, so that skin from like a recently deceased person, or?
Yeah. So organ donors, you have to specify that you want skin donated as well, which definitely do that, because obviously that's massive. People don't think about this kind of shit.
No,
they
not
take
at all.
organ donor, and you think organ donor, it's all the things.
Kidney, heart, lungs,
eyes, whatever. It actually doesn't include skin. So you actually have to make a specific point, like, include my skin. My skin is an organ, take my skin. Because, I mean, you don't need it when you're dead. Like, don't be selfish. Don't take it with you. Leave it behind.
Yeah, what's it going to do in that
Give
coffin?
it a second life. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Come on.
Wow.
And so, like, I got a couple of infections to the point where I know that one of the antibiotics I was on, they were drip feeding it to me. And it was like, I don't know, it was like so toxic that basically it was getting like a little drop every like 15 minutes or half an hour. Otherwise, if they gave it to me all at once, it would kill me. And it was like, rad, I want that in my body. So, like, massive risk of infection. And then, obviously, thermoregulation, I could overheat or I could totally cool down and just drop dead. So, like, there's so many things that can go wrong with burns.
Okay.
And ICU, those first 10 days, it wasn't until they kind of got to that 10-day mark and they managed to sit me up on the side of the bed, which was horrible. And
was it why? Just the pain of sitting up?
Oh, when you've been lying down for 10 days and you've not really moved yourself in 10 days, it's like I've had, like, you lose so much muscle mass so fast if you're not moving. If you're not using it, you literally lose it. So 10 days of not moving and not using my muscles. Like, I was being moved in theatre. I had a physio who would come into theatre and while I was knocked out would be in there, like, stretching everything and bending everything. And then... yeah, so basically then they sat me out before I left, was allowed to leave ICU, and it was horrible. I still remember it now, and I was still, like, seeing double and didn't know where I was, and it was just, like, this woman who'd just kidnapped me. She hadn't actually, she was a nurse, was trying to make me sit up on the side of the bed, and it was just, like, insult to injury. It's like, you've just kidnapped me, and now you're making me sit up. It was just, like, this is not fair. Yeah, and then it was just, like, got up on the ward, and then, still had issues with... infection, and then there was a day where it was not long after my legs got done where the grafts didn't look like they were actually going to take, and I was in so much pain. I don't actually remember anyone telling me that that's what the surgeon had said after that dressing change. They basically just, everyone looked pretty depressed, and it was like, we're going to have to do this again. So it meant waiting for my back and everything to heal enough to take it again for the third time, and I was in agony. I was like, I'm not doing this again. It was like, but you need skin, so I was like, you need to do it again. But so, thankfully they did take, so I didn't have to do that again.
So there's the cadaver skin, cadaver skin that you talk about, and also the skin graft from your own body. Where did they take that from? Your back?
So I was lucky. They took it from my back, my butt, and my thighs. So if I was wearing shorts, it just looks like I've been attacked with a cheese slice, basically. One of those ones where you can get the slices.
Still now?
Yeah. You can still see the scars. My back's red. Well, it's not red now. It's kind of pink, but it's definitely a different colour to the rest of my normal skin.
Wow. So how many surgeries all up?
17? I think it's 17.
Wow.
Which I think, it's number 17 or 18 this year. So I'm waiting on one more for this year, which will be number 17 or 18, I think.
All right.
Yeah.
So then, so it's like 2 weeks after the eruption where you sort of come out of the coma or regain sort of consciousness?
So I was in the coma for 5 days, but in ICU for 10.
Right.
All up, yeah. So half of my time in ICU was conscious and the other half not so much.
So what are your earliest sort of coherent memories of sort of coming out of the mist, I guess?
I remember coming out of the coma and it's from what my parents have told me, because they were there in the morning and they were like, we're going to wake her up today. And everyone was like, yes, yay, we can talk to Kelsey. And the doctor came in. I don't know how they do it, so I'm probably going to get this bit wrong, but basically adjusted the meds or whatever to wake me up. And he was like, should take about 20 minutes. I'll come back in about 20 minutes and we can go from there. Left to go see the other patients, because obviously I'm not the only one in the hospital. Literally as soon as he left, I woke up. And everyone was like, get the doctor, because I'm gagging, because I've got tubes down my throat. Right. And I can't move, and so I'm getting really stressed because it's like, it felt like being just like pinned to the bed and something's in my throat. And it was just like, I can't breathe. I was like, my eyes were like this, and so I couldn't see. I didn't know what was going on. I could hear my dad's voice. I remember my dad's voice. My mum was there as well. But I got so stressed. Mum actually had to leave because she just couldn't handle it, which is fair. And
Oh,
Dad,
it's so distressing. I mean,
Yeah.
your daughter's in this discomfort and there's nothing you can do.
exactly, and they can't find the doctor. Doctors somehow vanish off the face of the planet. Dad's trying to calm me down. I remember him talking to me, and he's trying to tell me to calm down and just breathe slowly, like, you're fine. And I'm going, there's something in my throat. And it was just like, this is not fine. And so, yeah, I remember that very, very clearly. I couldn't see anything because it was just like my eyes either had something in them or just because I'd been in the coma, I was on so much drugs, that they just, were in different directions. And there was like this orange haze. I remember this orange haze and thinking I was in a tent. And I remember thinking that's not very hygienic. From the last time I saw my body, I was like, this isn't very hygienic. This is not a good place to be. And now I'm like choking. So it was like, this is great. This is a good way. But I didn't realise I'd been in a coma either. I just thought I had a little nap. And then all of a sudden was waking up to all this random shit. And it was like, what is happening?
Yeah, I suppose you lose complete sense or perspective of time.
Yeah, because it's not like, I mean, you go to sleep and you wake up. It's like whether it's been 5 minutes or 5 days, kind of doesn't register at that point. Yeah, and so eventually the doctor came back because they have to make sure that you are properly waking up and properly going to wake up because otherwise they have to re-intubate you while you're awake, which, as you can imagine, probably not very comfortable. So they did the doctor, that's why the tubes weren't allowed to be just pulled out. It was like I had to be totally awake before they were going to pull those out, so that they didn't have to put them back in and put me back under.
Yeah. So those early conversations, do you remember much about them? Like did you have a million questions or were you just sort of numb?
I remembered it all.
Yeah.
The doctors were like, she probably won't remember. It's going to be a bit like 51st dates, which is why they didn't tell me the extent of what had happened for 3 weeks because they would probably have to tell me every day. And, I mean, Mum and Dad were still getting to grips with what had happened and people were still dying in other hospitals. All that shit was still happening back home with trying to get the other people off the island and all the other stuff. So they were like, we're not doing that for us and for her. That's just not right. So they didn't tell me, which was the right thing to do. It definitely was.
Like what I mean, didn't tell you what had happened or the extent of what was going on?
Yeah, the extent of what was happening.
Yeah, sort of keep you cocooned.
Yeah. So, and like I would ask questions. I'd be like, how's Hayden? Where's Hayden? And they'd just somehow change the subject. And I remember a couple of times thinking, that's weird, and then just continuing on because I was just so full of drugs. It was just kind of like I had a brain like a sieve. So I was just like, that's weird, and just carried on answering questions. So it was a bit weird. But yeah, I remembered everything, and the docs were quite surprised by that. So, but I'm quite glad that I do remember what I remember because there's no kind of question as to what happened for me. And, I'm glad I remember, which is morbid and weird. But, yeah, it just means there's no question for me as to what happened, and I'm not relying on everyone else to fill in those gaps and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, 100%. So Hayden, who you just mentioned, he's one of your co-workers, like your boss or a peer?
He was my boss.
Right.
He was one of my bosses.
Massive lamb chop sideburns.
Yeah, the most horrific sideburns you've ever seen. They were,
all the way down to the moustache line.
Oh, and in November he'd grow it up into a handlebar moustache, and it would be like a moustache lamb chop hybrid, and it was horrible.
Yeah.
But every November.
What are your memories of Hayden?
Oh, so many. He trained me when I first started there, and so, and he was just like, we ended up calling him Funkle because he was like our fun uncle. He was just, he's so much fun. Like, he'd like take us out to like Tarawera Falls after work, and like we'd just go and do all this like real fun stuff in the area. And like his tours were just a hoot, and he just gave everything 110%. So it was just, he was so much fun. It was great. And then he became one of our bosses instead of one of our peers, and so that was a bit of an adjustment. And he took his job very seriously, which was really, really cool. Like, hindsight, I wish I'd actually stopped being such a little prat and actually just listened rather than fighting him all the time. So it was a bit of a like brother-sister relationship where, I was always right, he was always right. Yeah. And so it was just like we'd always just clash over dumb shit like that. And then he became a skipper, which was really cool. So he was driving the boats. So it was really cool to go watch him like go up through the ranks, I suppose, to skipper, and he was just so proud of that achievement as well, which was really cool.
Yeah, and that was the so just following your Instagram journey, there was that first appreciation post you did where you thanked everyone for their support and you thanked the Give a Little people, $120,000 by the way. And then the next post was an appreciation post to Hayden, I suppose, when the reality sunk in that your mate didn't make it.
Yeah, it was, I don't, you probably know when I posted that. I don't.
I can't remember the date.
It was, yeah, I can't remember. I don't think I was home. I think I was still in Hutt, so it must have been end of January sometime because I don't think I'd been moved. But yeah, I'd known for maybe a month by that point. Yeah, and it was pretty horrible. And then like I hadn't seen the news or watched the news since it had all happened.
Did you want to or no?
No, I'd been hearing some pretty horrible stories about what people were saying and.
What like? Well, you don't want to go there.
I probably shouldn't go there because I'll get really worked up and then I'll probably get in trouble. But
No. Yeah, I'm just curious from my perspective because all I remember from that time is just this horrible human tragedy, which was just one of the most devastating days in New Zealand history. And I certainly didn't come across anyone saying anything horrible about it.
Oh, I'd heard also like people. I don't know if there was anything malicious behind it, but there was a lot of things that were said that weren't right, and there were a lot of things that were made up because they didn't have the answers, because obviously everyone at the time was busy trying to get people off the island and trying to figure out who was where and what was happening. So my colleagues in there obviously weren't talking to the press, and I don't think Ngāti was talking to the press. No one was talking to the press because it was like, let's just deal with what's happened rather than tell you what's happened. You're actually not part of this. So people were filling in blanks. I've got a whole bunch of news stories about all these things that people have said. Like one of them, for instance, was that instead of looking after my group, I called my mum on the island, which is quite a feat in itself because if you know White Island, there's no coverage. I also didn't have a phone, so that was pretty clever. And also there was no time. So it was like, where did you get that information from? Why are you making that shit up?
That's an absolute kick in the guts.
And it made me look like I don't know if people took it seriously or not, but it made me feel like I hadn't done my job. And it was like I knew that it wasn't real, so I knew they were just full of shit. But it was like I didn't do that, and people now think I did this. And it was just like, oh my God, everyone's going to think that that's why people died. They're going to think that this is my fault. So that was really horrible. And then there was stuff said about the company and, like there's some pretty nasty shit. Like people were just keyboard warriors and it was pretty horrible. So I stayed the hell away from it, and my nurses wouldn't let me watch TV. And I was there for I was in hospital for, I think it was like 70-something days, and never watched TV. And what else do you do in hospital other than stare at the roof? So it was like, I never watched TV that whole time because I was just like, I don't want to know, I don't want to see. And because my hands were all bandaged and delicate, I couldn't change the channel. So it was like, if everyone left, it was like, when something came on, it was like, well, I'm just going to have to la my way through this. And it was just like, I'm not doing that. So it was just like, nah, I'm not doing this. So never watched TV. Didn't listen to the radio or anything when I came home. Actually, the only radio I did listen to was The Rock because they don't do that shit. They don't talk about that kind of shit. So it was just like.
Well, and can I tell you from the perspective of sitting here?
No, I just realised that you weren't on The Rock. You were on the edge.
I was on the edge at the time.
Throwing you under the bus.
No, that's all right. That's all right. The Rock, they're good friends of mine. I know you've done a bit with Jay and Dunk, who do the afternoon show on The Rock, and they do a great show. But just if I may. Well, not even applaud, but just say no media organisation's doing that. That's individual weird people online. No media organisation.
It's just made me real paranoid now.
Yeah, that's awful.
And then especially with the court cases, it's made me just really, really paranoid that whatever I say is going to get used wrong, and whatever I talk about is going to get used against me in court and stuff like that. So I'm just like hella paranoid. I've not done a lot of these sorts of things, and when I do, it's like I want to hear it before it goes anywhere live, and I want the right to be able to say, cut that out, take that out.
Well, we've been going backwards and forwards for a couple of months. You're a hard one to pin down, but you sent me a DM a couple of weeks ago saying, "Oh, can you send me a list of questions?" And because you were worried about the legal aspect, and I replied to you saying, "Well, I don't really have any, I don't really have any questions, but it's just like it's your perspective on things." But I never really sort of thought about it from your angle. And that's another, like what you've been through is daunting. Like it's been enough trauma for 10 lifetimes, really, let alone one. And now you've got this other thing hanging over your head.
Yeah, and it was like even like when they told me what was going on. So this was like, I think it was right before my leg grafting. So it was around Christmas in 2019. So I'm hearing about all the stuff. I'm hearing that people have died. I'm hearing basically what's going on back home, all that kind of stuff. And then I'm also hearing media are trying to break into the hospital. The hospital was in lockdown because of you. Because you're here. Every single hospital with someone in it from White Island is in lockdown. There are guards everywhere. There's police everywhere. My family were being harassed. People were calling them. It was like, how did they get their numbers? They were breaking into the hospitals. They were dressing up in lab coats and trying to get through security. They were lying about being a relative of mine. I heard that one of them burnt themselves purposely to get into the burns unit to try and find us. And it was like, I'm hearing all of this while I'm not strapped to the bed, but I'm immobile. I can't fend for myself. And it was like, so I'd have like 2 hours in the middle of the day where I was like having a nap and I just stare at the door. And it was like, what if someone comes through the camera? I can't do anything. I can't even call the nurses because I had this little husky voice because I had a tube down my throat. So it was like, I can't defend myself. And then I got out of hospital and it was like, I started seeing all this stuff in the media and it was like, oh my God, like nowhere is safe. No one has got anyone's back here. Everyone's just like, it's like this big media frenzy of piranha just basically just ripping shreds off. And it was like, holy shit. And so it was terrifying. And then they're like, and then I posted that first post, got slammed media being like, we want to talk to you, let's do this. And I was just like, well, actually, I've got this media article from your work. There's no way I'll talk to you. Look what you said. It's like, there's no way. So I just delete and just, never reply.
Yeah, also, I suppose by doing stuff on Instagram, it's like you control your narrative as well.
Yeah, and so it was safe for me because it was like...
It's your space.
Yeah, exactly. No one could take it over. No one could misconstrue what I said because it was like I'd write it out. I'd have my mum read it. I'd have my dad read it. My partner at the time, I'd have him read it. I'd have my sister read it. And it was like, can you misread anything in this? And it was like that for months. And it was just like, I was terrified. I didn't want to go into town. I didn't want to leave my house. It was terrifying.
Oh, Kels, that's terrible. Sorry you went through that. I mean,
and that's on top of everything else.
No one deserves that. But especially when your character and conduct on the island. So I'm getting upset now.
I'm getting all mad and my voice is getting all like raspy and my mouth is dry. I guess as a media person, you're thinking, Jesus, like this is what people.
Can I just say, anyone that's in music radio, they're not media people.
No,
like Jay and Duncan, I know you're a big fan. But it's like the fact that someone could accuse you of like almost improper conduct during the emergency and
like,
calling your mum.
I'm a cool mum. Just wait, guys.
Especially when the way you actually handled yourself, as we all now know, is like the polar opposite of that. Like you went above and beyond.
Yeah.
I mean, it's heartbreaking. I can't imagine what it's like. I'm just trying to put myself in your shoes. Like being in this broken position where you're aching all over, you're being pulled in one direction and the other direction, and you're just stinging, and you're completely immobile, and then the shit's going on about you. It's unthinkable, and I'm sorry.
Yeah, and so like, just terrifying, and it's like, and then, the police want to talk to you because obviously you're a witness now. Yeah. You're a victim. You're a witness. And so it was just like, Jesus, now I have to do that, and if I say anything that makes it sound like I've done something wrong or a colleague's done something wrong, I'm then going to have to do this in court. So it was like, great. And it was like, and I know if I say anything to the media and I get worked up, because it's very easy for me to get worked up about it.
I can tell you're faster. Is that a redhead thing?
Oh, look, I'm the worst of all of them. It's like redhead, Aries. It's like, you name it, I am it. It's like, like fire sign. It's just, it's just like the perfect combination of just like aggro. And then it's like, and then like my brain is permanently stuck in fight, because fight has saved my life so many times. It's like, so now it's just like my brain just goes fight. It'll save you. And it's just like, so now it's just like, it doesn't take much for me to be like, and just like get all angsty straight away. And so, it's pretty shit.
But the fight or flight thing, like we talked about that before, that's how you were able to conduct yourself so awesomely in the heat of the moment.
And like fight is great for those situations, but when
yeah.
you like drop a spoon and just like want to fight everyone, not so good anymore. Not very handy.
So, like, how are you now? How's the pain now? How has your life changed? Like, what can't you do?
I mean, I'm pretty fair-skinned anyway, so the grafts burn really easy, but I'm already fair-skinned, so I already burn really easy. So it's like, cool, I've been training for this my whole life. So that's not really changed. Like, I can't really go out in the sun in summer. Can't really regulate my temperature anymore. So it's like, I don't realise I'm hot until it's like, wow, I'm faint. I'm going to pass out. I'm too hot. And then same with cold. I don't realise I'm cold until it's like my body starts vibrating. The first time it happened, it was like, because I don't get goosebumps because my legs don't have the pores or they don't do that anymore. So all of a sudden my body just starts shaking because I don't get goosebumps and then I don't get cold, get goosebumps, start shaking. I just skip all of that and go straight to shaking. So the first time it happened, it was like, I was just shaking. I was like, am I having a seizure? I was like, what's happening? And they were like, are you cold? And I was like, no. And they were just like, it's quite cold and you're not wearing a jacket. And it was like, I'm not cold, but I'm shaking. What is happening? Put a jersey on me and it stopped. And it was like, cool, so that's new. And it's like I still find random little new things. It's like I get weird sensations in my legs and in my hands. And it's just like, I had one, I think, last week where I think I was standing in the kitchen just like getting my supplements or something like that. And it was like, oh, there's cold water on my leg. And looked down and it was like, there's nothing on my leg. And it's just my nerves having a little like, and freak out.
Wow.
So that's pretty weird. But otherwise...
That's your new normal now. That's how...
Yeah, and like every time I ask someone like, when will the nerve pain go away? Because I don't really want to keep taking this medication for life. They're like, and change the subject. And so no one really knows. So
everyone's like, oh, gosh, she's going to see the red mist.
Yeah.
You don't want to make her mad.
Yeah, so...
Well, what sort of meds are you on? How many? Is it a cocktail of pills?
I'm not on much, and that surprises people. Even like in the first, I think once I was at a hospital, I was off all my medication, which was fantastic. And so people were like, oh, you must be on so many medications. And I was like, no, I'm on none. And they were like, oh, okay. And so, but now I am on nerve pain medication because, otherwise I want to rip the skin off my legs. And then I'm also on beta blockers for my heart rate, which I'm actually seeing my cardiologist tomorrow to hopefully come off them this year because we're not quite sure if it's the physical trauma or the mental trauma, so the fight-flight. But my resting heart rate was quite high. It was over 100. And so I'd do any kind of exercise or cardio. I'd walk up a hill. My heart rate's at 190 something. And it's like I've just walked somewhere. And it's like, that's not safe. And then resting heart rate of 110 apparently can start to do damage. So my cardiologist put me on the beta blockers to bring my heart rate down, which we didn't realise until I think about a year ago. Because it caps my heart rate and it keeps my heart rate down. It does a really good job of that. If I do any cardio, I run out of oxygen because my heart rate can only go so high, and so I'm not getting oxygen into my muscles. And so for a while it was like, oh my God, I've gone backwards so far with my like exercise because I could like do quite a lot of things, and then all of a sudden I climbed Roy's Peak. It wasn't easy and I cried the last kilometre. But
did you since 2019?
Yeah, I did that. What year are we?
23. Yeah, 2023 now.
Not 22. It must have been 21.
Wow, good for you. Yeah, that's a hell of a climb. Zigzags back and forth forever.
Yeah, and there's no cover. So it's all sun.
Yeah,
which was not nice. But yeah, we did that in November, and yeah, I was good up until the Instagram point. And I was like, this is the top. And my partner at the time was like, this is not the top. We have a K to go. And I was just like, I don't want to go the last K. Like, I could just die here, thankfully. And he was just like, no, come on, we're doing it. You'll regret it if you don't. It's 1K. And I was just like, okay. And that's where I'd hit my limit. And I just bawled my eyes out for the last K. And I was just like, I don't want to do this. And just moped up the hill. And made it to the top. Admittedly, he was right. It was worth it. The views were amazing.
Roy's Peak, by the way, it's down sort of Wanaka way.
Yes,
in Central Otago. Beautiful, well worth the hike.
Stunning. It is stunning. And then on the way down, it was like my knees just felt like there was no cartilage there anymore. It was just like bone on bone, and it was just, it was a bad time. But did that, and then it was like 2 months later, I could not walk up a hill at home without bursting into tears, and it was like not even okay. And it was like, how can I do Roy's Peak and then not do this? It was just like I couldn't work it out, and I got on the beta blockers since then. And my physio was like, you're running out of oxygen. Like, that's why all of a sudden you get fatigued and then you burst into tears because your brain's running out of oxygen.
Right, like almost like altitude sickness.
Yeah, and so it was just like, and then it was like, So, like, for the last year, just over a year now, I've been on the beta blockers. And so I have to be really careful with my cardio. And so if I do, or when I do, like, I've started boxing and, like, bar. And so both I just have to be really careful with my cardio. So it's like my heart rate, I can get it to about 120 and keep it there, and I'm all right. But if I go any higher than that for any kind of prolonged period of time, I run out of oxygen.
So the podcast is called Runners Only. I'm guessing
I'm not a runner.
No relationship to running.
No relationship to running. Occasionally I'm like, I'd love to know how to, like, I'd love to be able to run. And then I'm like, nah, my boobs like want to rip off my chest and my knees hurt. And I was like, I don't want to do that.
Were you, 'cause you mentioned exercise and the heart rate thing, it would make you emotional and cry. Were you very emotional pre-2019? Or quite a hard bitch?
No, I don't know.
Has it made you more emotional? Do you think? Yeah.
Yeah, I like even like watching movies, like I cry a lot easier than I ever did. I'd be like sappy and just like walk away from it. Whereas now I'm like, and so that's quite a change.
Yeah.
And then with the PTSD, I get angered really easily over anything, and then it's like I also shut down really easily. So I went away recently with a group of 19 strangers, as you do when you've got PTSD and you want to push yourself to the limit. And it was great, but it was quite action-packed. And admittedly, it was really good because I might actually have a big trip at the end of the year, which will be bigger than this. So it was kind of a nice little taster of domestically, because it was a South Island. It was like I can just get on a plane and come home within a couple of hours, so that's fine. But it was like, 2 days in, it was like, wow, I really didn't take into account the social aspect of getting tired. And so it was like 2 days into 10 days, I think it was like, wow, I'm exhausted. And it was just like, I don't want to talk to anyone anymore.
Yeah.
And it's like, let's go to Hooker Valley. And it was like, oh, okay. And then when we got to Queenstown, I was like, I feel like shit. And so I said to the tour leader, I was like, I got to tap out for a day or I'm going to lose my shit. And so he was just like, well, you're booked into this thing. And I was like, not anymore, mate. I'm going to call him and pull out. And he was like, you can't do that. It's less than 24 hours out. I was like, I can fucking do that because it's either that or I'm going to cry my whole way through it. And so pulled out of it, and they were sweet. They were like, yeah, that's fine. We totally get it. Yeah. So I just like stayed in my hotel room for the day. But when I was walking in Queenstown, I walked them, the group down to, I think they were going rafting or canyoning. And so I walked them down there, and I was walking back, and I was in Queenstown Main Street, and I was just walking back to the hotel. Someone dropped something in Queenstown, and it sounded exactly like White Island. And I say that the eruption didn't make any noise, and I mean that. It was like a noise it used to make about a month before and also a year before that. So it wasn't even related to the eruption. It was
what sort of sound?
It was just like this big boom, like someone just dropped. Like when I was down there, they had these like big like iron bits over, I guess, holes in the ground.
Okay.
And so I think someone had picked one up to look under it and then just dropped it.
Right.
And it took every fibre of my being not to just duck and cover in the main street of Queenstown. And I was just like physically shaking. And I was just like, go, 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 get back to the hotel. And made it back to the hotel without having a full-on breakdown. And then a few days later, I actually had 2 panic attacks in a kayak, which is not the greatest place to have a panic attack.
Of all the places.
I know, on the water. It's like one of those ones that you like
strapped
in, and I was just like, cool, so if this shit flips, I've got to actually like physically save myself. It was like, I don't want to do that again. I don't want to save myself again. So it was quite an eye-opening test because obviously at home, everything's nice and safe. I have my routine, I have my appointments, all my different therapists and exercise coaches, like they all know me really well. They all know what triggers me. They know how to like deal with me, I suppose. go out, and so I was like, I feel really good, I feel really strong, I'm doing all the stuff that my wellness coach is teaching me to do, I feel great, like I haven't had an incident with PTSD in ages, so I was like, I'm going to do this real big random thing. When I did that, I came back and I was like, oh my God, I am hopeless, I've made no progress. And she was just like, no, like you were totally out of you're totally out of your safe zone, like, and you're in this like massive situation. But I learned a lot, and so that's good, and so I'm using that going forward. And it's like, if I do this big trip at the end of the year, then I've got all these things now which I'm like, need to work on that, need to take that into account. So yeah, that's massive, which is really good.
Oh, I know you're not going to like this, but it's inspirational that you're even like doing this. Like a lot of people are going to be listening to this thinking, oh God, I'm in more of a comfort zone than what she is, and I haven't been through any of this shit. Like the fact that you are constantly trying to push yourself. You're quite kind to yourself.
No.
No.
God, no. I'm learning to be a lot kinder.
Yeah.
Like, my PTSD got really, really bad at the start of last year. It was really, really bad, and I openly admit I was a piece of shit. Like, I didn't want to be around me, but I can't get away from me. And so had a breakdown with a couple of relationships, which I'm not even in contact with them anymore, and they're two people I thought would be in my life for life. That was a massive slap in the face to keep trying to find something, because I was just done. I was like, I'm trying talk therapy, that doesn't feel like it's working. I tried EMDR, that made things worse.
EMDR, what's that?
Eye movement, EMD, dissociate. I can't remember anymore.
It's a terrible acronym.
Oh, it's the worst. It means,
Anyway,
eye movement, desensitization and reprocessing.
Right.
So basically it's to try and reprocess the trauma or the memory into the actual memory part of your brain, rather than it living in the emotional part of the brain and not being where it's supposed to be. So tried that didn't work. Tried a whole bunch of other stuff, that didn't work. And I was just tired. I was done. I was so tired. Like, all the physical recovery shit, then all the trying to like heal mentally as well, which is like way worse than the physical stuff.
Yeah, is it?
I was just done.
Yeah.
So I was just like, fuck this. I'm just going to have a few months off. I'm just have a break, which you can't do. You can't just have a break from healing. And so my headspace, everything just deteriorated really, really bad. The PTSD basically took over. I was terrified of everything. I was angry at everything. I probably wasn't depressed, but I was sad a lot. And I didn't leave the house. Like, I barely left the house.
And all this is understandable, right?
Yeah, to an extent, yes.
No, 100% it is. Like, with what you've been through.
Yeah, and
I mean, it would be very, very easy, and even like no one could hold it against you if you decided to be a victim for the rest of your life.
And that's kind of where I was. I was just like, I've had all these horrific things happen to me.
Yeah.
I've ended up in all these shitty situations. I feel like I'm totally alone. No one gets it. No one can seem to help me. I've tried all these things. People are trying to help. It's not working. I'm done. Like, I just want to be a normal person for a bit. So I'm just going to just relax. And yeah, it got ugly. And so yeah, I lost those two relationships, which was enough of a kick up the arse to be like, you can't live like this, mate. Like, come on, look what you've been through. You can do this. And so I went to a naturopath, and I went to a hypnotherapist. I found a wellness coach. You name it, I've tried it. And so thankfully I changed psychologists to someone with a bit more PTSD experience, and like the wellness coach and my new psych, like, holy shit, like, they are worth their weight in gold. They just changed my life. And so in the last, what are we now? April.
Yeah, April.
10-ish months. I've been, basically overhauling my life. And, cause I just got the biggest kick up the ass, and it finally made me realize, like, even though like all this terrible stuff has happened to you and that wasn't your fault, the rest is now your responsibility. The PTSD is my responsibility. The trauma is my responsibility. Surviving, living from here on out is my responsibility. And I can either live like that, lose all my relationships, or I can just keep going. And it's like, I just have to keep going. And like, I had this like brief chat with Damien from Blind Spot, and honestly, I reckon he helped save my life. Cause
really? How so? He's a great guy, by the way, Damien Alexander.
I love him.
Yeah, great. How did your paths cross? Were you a Blind Spot fan?
Yeah, so The Rock sent me to 2 of their gigs. 2 of their gigs, and I didn't really. I spoke probably more to Sheldon than Damien, but there was in September. I think it was September. The Rock does their Rock 2000. And one of their new songs, Tonight, played, and they had this little snippet of Damien talking about the song and like the how it came to be, like where his headspace was at when he wrote it, and it just struck a chord. And so I messaged him. I was just like, dude, I am in the darkest part of my life, and just heard you talking about the song, and I was just like, I needed that. Like, thank you. Just keep doing what you're doing. And he sent me back this massive message. I bawled my eyes out. I saved it as my background for like 3 months because I just like read it every day and just be like, come on, you can do this. But in short, it was like, you just got to keep turning up. Just turn up. Just keep turning up. Like, even if you keep getting hit in the face, turn up. And so
it's easier said than done, though, isn't it?
Which it is.
Hard.
It is. And like when you're exhausted, like physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, just everything, like everything's at 0% or negative. It is hard, and I didn't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do that. I still don't want to do it. But it's like, what choice do I have? It's like, so it's kind of just got me to this point now where it's just like, I've finally found things that are helping. It's got me out of that dark hole of the whole, just not being good. And it doesn't mean I'm perfect. Like, I still have bouts of PTSD, as I just mentioned, down south, and like I still have days where I just totally just dissociate, but I know what that is now. Whereas like 2 years ago, it would happen, and people were like, "What's wrong? Tell me what's going on?" It's like, I don't fucking know. I'm not right. I don't know what's going on, and they would be like, "What do you mean you don't know? You should know. Like, what's going on in your head?" And it's just like, I don't know. And so people would just be like, and leave, because they'd be like, I don't know how to help you if you don't know what's going on, and so they just walk away. And so it was like, well, now I don't feel like I can talk to anyone because everyone's just giving me the same answer. So it was just like, I just basically just imploded, and it obviously exploded because that's what happens. You can't just shut down because that doesn't work.
Yeah.
So I'm changing my life because I don't want to be that person. I hated that person, but I didn't know how to change it. But I have the help now to not be that person. And I'm doing my damnedest not to be that person again. Also,
I guess beyond scaring off and driving away other people, it's like you've got to live with yourself.
Exactly.
So you want to be comfortable in your own skin.
And it's hard. Like, I reckon I put on like 20 kgs of just stress. And it was just like, because I was always in that fight-flight, I'm never in that rest-digest. So it was like anything I ate, straight up in my body. So I hated the way I looked. I hated my brain. I just hated everything about myself. And it was just like, which sucks, because it was like, I've survived all this stuff, and everyone's telling me, you're so inspirational, you're so strong, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, if only you could be in my head right now. It's just like, you would, oh my God, it was not good. So, and like, I do struggle to take the compliments, like you've been saying to me, and it's just like, I struggle with it, and I don't know whether that's, ever going to be better or not. But.
And what's your relationship like now with your physical body? Like when you get up in the morning and you're out of the shower and you see yourself in front of the mirror, like are you comfortable with what you see?
Enough. Which is, it's the stupid thing about it is it's got nothing to do with the scars. The scars I think are kind of cool because it's just like
badass.
I mean, and I can't change that.
Yeah.
But it's like there's things I can change that I'm not happy with. So it's like weight and like all these dumb, stupid cosmetic things. It's like I am healthy. It's like I am boxing, I am doing bar, I am doing reformer, I am doing mat Pilates. Like I am walking my dog 2-3 times a day. It's like I could not be doing any more physical exercise if I tried without killing myself. So it's like I mean, not lately because I went to the South Island and then I got like this gastro bug last week, so I'm not good at the moment. I have barely moved in the last 2 weeks, but and then I sprained my shoulder, and then while I was vomiting, I ruined the shoulder. So it was just like, so I'm in a bit of a state at the moment, but I will get back because all my appointments are slowly starting to come back, and so it's just just another little setback for me.
And what about at night when you put your head on the pillow and shut the eyes? What are your dreams like?
I don't really have any.
Don't you? I think that's a good thing, right?
I mean, I don't even know. I've had, I think I can count on one hand how many nightmares I've had since White Island. 2 of them have been White Island. And then the other 3, I don't, actually maybe it's just those 2. There's only been 2. I've only ever had 2 major nightmares that I can think of. And both of them were around White Island, but not what actually happened. It was just my brain making up other random White Island things.
Jeez, that's lucky, isn't it? I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For all the symptoms of PTSD that I don't have, I'm glad I don't have the nightmares because I need 11 hours of sleep to be somewhat functional, which apparently is a trauma thing because of the hypervigilance and stuff, and I'm always looking for danger. I do require a lot more rest than the average person, which sucks because then it's I have a late night or I have to get up early in the morning and it's I don't function well.
Yeah. So how old are you now? What are you, 20?
29.
Right.
Yeah.
Shit, you've still got so much life to live, don't you?
Hopefully.
Yeah. Oh, no, absolutely you do.
I mean,
absolutely.
People have been saying for the last 8 years, that's your bad luck, surely. And then it's something else happens. And so it's just everyone's you're still young. And it's
Yeah. So what's next? How's the next 50, 60, 70 years going to look?
Just survive.
Right? Oh, I think you've done that.
Boring survival would be nice, actually.
You say surviving. I'd say, and I think many other people would say thriving. Seriously.
Yeah, getting there. I think the aim is to basically, I don't really have a major aim. At the moment, it's just get my mind right, get my brain right, find the things that work for me, get them into a routine that's I don't have to think about. So that's my ultimate goal at this point, is to just get that shit sorted first, get off the stupid beta blockers so I can actually start doing shit, and then go from there. I think that's my goal at this point, is to get my head right first.
Yeah, you're so driven though. I can't wait to see what you do and what you achieve in your life, because there's a lot more to come. So what are you doing for money? There was the Give a Little page, which there was this is at the time of the explosion. There was an outpouring of support, $120,000 from thousands of small amounts, which is humbling. I'm guessing that money's all gone. That was years ago. I don't mean that in a
I'm just trying to think.
Just day-to-day expenses and whatnot.
Yeah, so because I have ACC, because obviously it's a workplace incident.
Oh, okay.
So ACC has been amazing. They've been incredible.
So how much do you get? 80% of your income, the whole thing, or
80%?
Right.
Yeah. So they pay 80% of my wage.
Is that for the rest of your life, or
until if I go back to work?
Okay.
So I just if I can get my head right and get the PTSD thing sorted, then I can probably work. But at the moment, any kind of stress, and I'm and can't function. So it's no one's going to want that. I don't want that.
Unless it's one of those restaurants, there was one that opened in Auckland called Karen's, where
I'd be great there. I would thrive.
People go there to be abused by the staff.
Yeah, I'd thrive. So maybe I need to do that. So at the moment, it's just get that shit sorted. So ACC, and so I had to Give a Little page, which was just, oh man, that blew my mind. That made me cry.
It's humbling. It's people you don't know. And that's, you were saying before about some of the mean things that people wrote online.
Yeah.
The Give a Little people, they're the majority of New Zealanders. Not everyone's got money to give, but that represents most New Zealanders.
Yeah, and I remember when Mum showed it to me, this is when things had all started unravelling. And I was in hospital. It was, December still sometime. And Mum was saying, this Give a Little's been set up for you. I was like, oh, nice, that's good of them. And she was just like, do you want to have a look at it? And I was just like, yeah, all right. And so she showed me the phone, and my broken little head thought it was $9,000. And I was like, oh my God, that's so amazing. $9,000. And Mum was like, 9? And I was just like, yeah, $9,000, because she'd taken the phone at this point. And she was like, it's not $9,000, it's $97,000. And I was like, what? Show me? And she showed me again, and then it was scrolling through the screes of messages, and I just burst into tears, and it was like, are you kidding me? This is amazing. And some of them were ex people I took on my island, and some of them were people I hadn't heard from since God knows when. It was amazing. It was just incredible.
Yeah, I guess in a lot of ways, the comments that people wrote when they made a donation meant just as much, if not more, than the money.
It was amazing. And so when the Give a Little page actually closed, Mum got every single message printed out from Give a Little and is put them all together. So I've got them forever now. So I can just read through them, and it's just really nice.
Oh, that must be nice if you're having a rough day.
Yeah.
So what are the biggest learnings about yourself in this whole thing? Are you tougher than what you thought you were?
Oh, shit,
Stronger
yeah.
than what? Yeah.
Shit, yeah.
Yeah.
And like people say, like I could never get through what you've got through, and it's just like, well, you don't have a choice. Like when you're in that position, it's like your options are curl up in a ball and let the scar tissue take over and die, or it's just go, this fucking sucks, and keep going. Like I've tried both ways, and really both of them suck, but one of them sucks way more, and it destroys everything around you as well. So it's like, well, you got to keep going. You have to find the help. You have to keep going, and just make the best out of what you've got left. Like, otherwise, what's the point?
Oh, that's probably a great way to end it. Oh, can I ask, like, why did you are like generally quite private. Like, I know you've been on that Netflix movie. You share a bit on your own terms on your own Instagram, but you don't do a lot of the stuff. And I'm so grateful that you did. But why? Why did you agree to come here today?
I guess, because last year was so bad for me. Possibly my worst, I would say. Mentally, my worst. I've kind of got a bit more of a fuck it attitude now. And so, that's mostly it. I'm kind of just trying to just do more things and try more things and, just try and be a bit more of a yes guy instead of a hermit guy.
Yeah, and I'm so pleased you did, because I think you're remarkable, and I think there's a lot of people that can get a lot of good from your story, because like what you've been through is unimaginable, and the way that you've dealt with it with like a fair amount of grace and humility, it's just remarkable, and all those words we talked about before that you curl your toes up at, like heroic and brave and strong and whatever else, they're all absolutely true, and you should be giving yourself a pat on the back for the work you've done, because no one's motivating you to do it. You got to do it all yourself, unfortunately, and you have, and you are, and you continue to do so.
Thank you.
I think we'll end it at that, eh?
All right.
Kelsey Waghorn, hero. Honestly, if no one comes to give you a bravery award or a courage award or whatever there is at some stage in the next couple of years, I'm going to fucking buy one myself and give it to you, because you deserve it.
One of those little karate statues.
Yeah, a little plastic thing.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Hey, you're a great New Zealander, and I can't thank you enough for coming on to the podcast today.
Thank you.